Now, I do want to ask you about alternative media too. You've worked with Destiny, of course. We talked about that last time. You've got the plushie behind you.
Yeah,
How do you
it's
think
still there.
How do you think he's done with approaching the war, and how he's talked about it and debated people on it?
Um, him in particular, or like people
Well,
like
I
that
was
in
going to ask you
general?
about a few different content creators, but I'll start with him because
Oh, sure, yeah.
alphabetical.
Well, like Destiny's community in particular really not only helped me with my like volunteer work and everything they still do. So they're like the biggest drive for my fundraising efforts and things like that. And for that alone, obviously, I'm super grateful. And it has been like, I don't know, like huge ass amounts, okay, of stuff we could afford and buy it for soldiers because of that. As far as Destiny himself, he doesn't really. It's not like his main thing that he covers Ukraine, so it's not like he talks about it that much. But when he does, from what I've seen, it seems to be like pretty good counter arguments towards Russian propaganda or towards. He brought it up a lot with the that talking point that became quite popular amongst MAGA people about no wars under Trump. That shit. So when Trump was like in power, there was no wars, things like that. And people say Ukraine and in Destiny always brought up, excuse me, 2014 and everything, Donbass, Crimea, he would bring up things like that, and that's pretty good. And he also spoke with Dave Smith, I think, a little bit about it, if I'm not mistaken, pro-Russian guy on a paycheck, I think. Yeah, so I mean, with a bunch of people who are like isolationist or like super Russian propagandists, things like that. He did talk with them about Ukraine on multiple occasions. There was like this guy on Konstantin Kisin show. Oh, fuck, I don't remember. Sebastian Gorka or something
Oh
of that
yes,
kind.
it was triggered, right? Triggernometry.
Yeah. That. So he spoke in length about Ukraine with him. So every time he does speak about it, I always appreciate it, obviously, and I think he's doing a very good job there.
Okay. And now you've also worked a lot with Dylan Burns. I've worked with Dylan Burns too. I talked with him. I'm possibly interviewing him too. What do you think about
Hmm,
how he's done?
cool. Well, that's the brave cinnamon roll right there, Mr. Burns. And not only did he, you know, pretty much upheld his whole life to come here and to be like a war journalist and everything, which is in itself a little bit unhinged and also awesome. But also he's a very he did things that I don't really think many people did, like being entrenched with the artillery crews, being with the drone teams, actually living there with him for a little bit with them, filming their lives, filming, taking interviews straight from the front in very dangerous places. He's worked with the mine crews and everything. I only wish it had more eyes on it and it wasn't so buried under the algorithm and, everything. And but yeah, I do think he's doing pretty phenomenal job in the sense that he is covering things that really most like big journalists don't even cover. So the insight in the war and in the mindset of the Ukrainian people and soldiers that he provides, you can't really find that much anywhere else, in my opinion. So in that sense, the content is both unique, and I also, of course, appreciate his effort in general and being so like dedicated and I don't know, it's like pretty phenomenal in my opinion. I wish there, like I said, there were more people who gave him eyes of theirs to see his stuff because yeah, really the effort is crazy, and also the risk and dedication and his integrity in things he does, and also rarely would you find people who actually care that much, which I especially appreciate. He's my friend and everything, but yeah, I appreciate that, especially because most people, I mean, it's a job and they do their job, which is nothing wrong with that. You're a journalist, that's your job, right? Film shit. But also there is a lack of care sometimes, which Dylan just doesn't have. So he cares genuinely, but he's also genuine in his work. So that's something I would say he's about as good as as a representative of Ukraine, but also a person the most, I think, knowledgeable about Ukraine in terms of like what is going on, what people are thinking, what people want about all of that. If I would point to literally anyone to say who knows what's up, I would point at Dylan Burns, because I do trust him that much to be as accurate as possible in his representation of what Ukraine wants and Ukrainian people feel.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job as well. Now, several other live streamers have talked about Ukraine as well. You've actually criticized Hasan Piker. He he has some very strange opinions. He seems to think that the Houthi rebels are good and that it's cool to hijack ships in the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. I think this is a pretty wild
Yeah,
take, but he's also talked
and
about Ukraine too. Do you have any thoughts on his coverage and
and
what?
laugh with the actual
Hmm.
dude about abducting people. Very funny. People that are still abducted, by the way, they haven't been returned to their families by Houthis. Very funny, very nice person. But yeah, I personally really don't want to talk about him much, because his community is absolutely unhinged, and every time you mention him, they post all sorts of like death threats, rape threats, and all sorts of things. Not that I'm care, like, every time I'm about to explode every day, so it's not like I'm too phased about it, but I just simply I find them disgusting, and I find him disgusting, and talking about him is honestly kind of beneath just me. But at the same time, he's the biggest political streamer. So if he was like some sort of like, I don't know, a couple thousand people, no offense to small streamers, I'm just saying, if he was like a small person with a small number, I wouldn't really bother, to talk about him, and I wouldn't bother to point fingers at him all the time. But unfortunately, I have to, because this person has humongous platform and humongous outreach, and him spreading insane Russian bullshit. Dylan Burns made a whole video with Ukrainians, including me, reacting to Hasan's absolutely deranged takes on Ukraine. There's actually, you can find it. It's the Ukrainians react to Hasan. I think it's called Piker. So yeah, so we said honestly everything there is to say about his takes within that video, about him saying the annexation of Crimea was a completely justified act, about him spreading Russian propaganda about Russian speakers like me wanting Russia or us being discriminated in Ukraine, which is absolutely fucking not true, and then him basically softcore justifying Russian invasion, and yeah, calling attack on the Kerch Bridge, like Breaking Points did, terrorist attack, and all sorts of things, and yeah, all sorts of things really, and absolutely undermining and laughing essentially in the face of the Ukrainian people and our own will of self-determination and freedom from Russia, and making it all about America bad and NATO bad, and all of it is the fault of the United States, not even Russia. And yeah, I wouldn't call him pro-Russian, but and pro-invasion. At least I haven't seen. I don't know in his head maybe, but he hasn't said much. I think that's false to say that at least. But I would say him an apologist of Russia, and I would say him doing a harmful anti-Ukrainian false narratives propaganda. But to be quite fair, he didn't speak about that much at all in recent times. I don't think in a year or something. Um, he like fully moved to Gaza, Israel. Thanks. Thank you, Hassan. Like, moving on, genuinely, yeah. But yeah, I don't think he spoke about it. At least I haven't seen much of him. The last thing I saw, I think, was on Ethan Klein, H3. I think he spoke about Ukraine a little bit. I think that's the last thing I saw. It's been a while as well. So yeah, I can't remember like every single stupid thing he said, but there was like, from what I mentioned, there was plenty of pretty disastrous shit. Oh, and then, of course, Nazis, Azov, all of that, all that narrative he also obviously repeated. He even watched the Gravel Institute video that it was blatant Russian propaganda. They even deleted the video itself later because it was so fucking obvious what it was. And he watched it, and he basically clap sealed to it and nodded. So it's pretty horrible that people like that open their mouth about my country, but at the same time, I can't control that. All I can do is just, criticize it and showcase that it's wrong and immoral and fuck them.
Okay. I recently interviewed Kraut for my other book, and we talked about Ukraine as a part of that too. I know Kraut actually made a video pretty recently about the ideology of Putin's Russia. Have you seen that? And
Yeah, it's a good. He's my friend. Yeah,
oh,
it's a
okay.
very good video. It's a very good video. I super duper appreciate his effort and that. Him and actually LazerPig did one of the best videos I think about the mentality of Russia and Putin's Russia and how the Kremlin functions in general. LazerPig's video is also quite amazing on that front. And LazerPig actually came here to Kharkiv. I met him. That was pretty cool. Yeah, but he's a Scottish YouTuber who talks about Ukraine quite a bit and Russia as well. And I appreciate like Kraut's coverage definitely. And he's a very very smart person, and it's kind of like have been a bit of a relief even. Talking with him after talking with so many no shade Americans, because so many people in Europe seem to be a little bit more understanding of the history and of the, I guess, context and the culture and everything around Russia, Ukraine, and especially people like Kraut are exceptionally knowledgeable about those things. So, yeah, I do appreciate him quite a bit.
Okay. I like him too. Kraut's great.
Can I have a few more moments of your time? Thank you again for watching another book interview clip. The full interview is linked in the description. Right now, I need your help. I'm currently running a Kickstarter campaign for my next recently finished book, Champions of Elanthia. Champions of Elanthia is my in-depth exploration of the world of multi-user dungeons, featuring interviews with a dozen Dragon Realms and Gemstone 4 players, telling their stories and preserving gaming history. You can help me bring this project to life for as little as $5, so please back the Kickstarter today and help me fulfill this dream. I'm also happy to report that the people of GamerGate, Volumes 1 and Volumes 2, are now available on Amazon in both Kindle and hardcover formats. Thank you again for your time.